What up, guys? James from Bolt Bros here. Let's talk about playoff football. Man, week 15, this is when things get heated between division and also playoff seeding throughout the NFL. We're going to talk very specifically about the AFC West, obviously, because my Chargers are in there. So let's talk about week 15 and all the scenarios that could benefit the Chargers and where we potentially could end the season. So let's go ahead and get into it, guys. Bolt Bros, let's go.
Bolt Bros!
Once again, guys, appreciate all the love and support. Please like this video, subscribe to this channel if you have not, and throw in some comments below about playoffs. Yes, we are talking about playoffs. It's great to be able to see meaningful football in December. Like last season, oh my gosh. End that season, please. 5-12. It was just, please end it. I want to see the offseason. That's crazy that I've ever said that, but that's exactly how I felt last season. Just get past it. Let's get to the offseason and let's see what happens from there. And it's been a phenomenal offseason, obviously. And right now, the Chargers sitting at 8-5, looking good. Really, honestly, got to win just about 2 more games to be able to get into the playoffs. So I'm excited to be able to see where we're going to potentially go. And we got a lot of scenarios in front of us. Obviously, the Chiefs locked up the division. That's the 9th season in a row, which is incredible to see. But bottom line, we're trying to just get a ticket to the show, right? That's about getting one way or another into the playoffs, extend your season out, and see what could happen in the playoffs. So let's just kind of talk about where it's sitting right now for all these teams in the AFC. So once again, here we go. We obviously got the Chiefs all lined up in the number 1 slot at the moment at 12-1, Bills at 10-3, pretty much locked up the AFC West there. In the hunt, the Steelers are sitting at the 3rd spot right now, pretty much 99% across the board that they'll get to the playoffs. Once again, 10 wins has been the talk, right? You could get 10 wins, you could pretty much get to the playoffs, right? That's the idea. Chargers need to win 2. You got 4 games left. Find a way to make it happen. Texans, basically number 4 seed, kind of all over the place right now, and they are playing Miami too. Big game going on there too. So let's talk about that one. I'll chat more about that Texans and Dolphins situation. Ravens sitting in the 5th seed because obviously they have the tiebreaker that they beat us. So they're at 8-5, sitting at the 5 seed. Pretty much, if they lose, 87%, current 97%. If you win, you go up 1% to 98%. Chargers sitting in the 6th seed right now. If we lose, we go down to 81%. Currently at 89%. If we win, go up to 96%. Once again, that 10-win situation. That get to 10 wins, you'll find a way to the playoffs. Broncos, 8-5 right now. We beat them once. We get to play them in next week on Thursday Night Football. That's going to be a big game for them, and even bigger game this weekend against Colts. I'll talk more about that. But currently they're at 73%. If they win, 89%. If they lose, 46%. Big dip. It's almost a must-win for them. And Colts sitting right there on the heels of the Broncos. If they lose, 8%. Pretty much done at that point. 26% is where their current percentage to get to the playoffs. And if they win against the Broncos, they go up to 56%. It is crazy how big that game is this weekend. And Dolphins, I'm going to talk more about them because they could be a little bit of a stretch to try to get to the playoffs. But at the same side, they could be some of the games that they're playing, especially this one against Houston Texans this weekend. It's a must-win for both of them in a lot of ways. And I'll chat more about that too. But right now, they're only at a 60% current rate to get to the playoffs. And if they lose, 6% is where it goes down to. Pretty much done at that point. And if they win, 31%. Crazy. And actually, I just thought about one other scenario that's going on with the Colts and the Dolphins this weekend, which would be pretty incredible to watch. But let's go ahead and get into a couple of the other teams here. Let's jump right into the Ravens. Let's just kind of keep it down the line for the teams here. So the Ravens currently are sitting in the 5th seed right now, right? And they are currently in the running to be able to get to the playoffs. Their percentages are really good. They play against the Giants this weekend. Probably should be a win, right? Shouldn't have much of a struggle. Next week, Steelers-Ravens. That's a big one. Steelers did beat the Ravens the first time around. So this is a big one to maybe try to find a way to sneak away that division from the Steelers. Who knows? That's a tough one. But then the Ravens play the Texans. Texans do not have a very good road ahead of them. And they're kind of been playing average football at this point. You don't really know who they are. They're not the 2023 Texans at this point. They're still kind of figuring themselves out. Ravens play against the Texans. It's a big game for both of those teams. especially if the division's going on there. Big thing about this game from the Steelers Ravens, Saturday game to a Wednesday game. It is crazy to see that. That is a crazy short, week. I guess with the Saturday kind of considered as like a Thursday night game, but going on the Christmas Day game, that's crazy. Browns Ravens to end the season. So once again, you could say that the Ravens will definitely get to, I think, 10 wins. I think they could go to 11-6 in my opinion. We'll see where it ends up going with them. I mean, 11-6 will get you the playoffs. It's, once again, just about get a ticket to the show. Getting the division is critical because then you get those home game abilities, but that's going to be an interesting one to see how that pans out. The Steelers would have to probably falter quite a bit to make that happen. So moving on to our bolts here. Chargers, man, the schedule is interesting. You look at the Buccaneers and the Broncos. We basically play the Bucs on Sunday, Broncos on Thursday. A lot of these teams that are in the running right now are playing a lot of short schedule type situations here. Those like Christmas Day games and all those different things. It's really interesting to see how that pans out. But once again, the Chargers have got to handle their business. Currently sitting at 8-5. If we go out and beat the Bucs this weekend, that is massive for our playoff spot. That will actually kind of put us one game that we just need to win in the next 3 at that point. Really, you want to split at least the Broncos, Bucs. I personally think it would be great to beat the Broncos too, because then we give ourselves more gap and we have a 2-game lead essentially at that point. So tiebreaker won't even be a thing at that point. Only records would be the difference at that point. And then you get to play the Patriots and the Raiders to end the season on the road. Bottom line is you got to handle your business, Chargers. Now, once again, Jim Harbaugh talked about it in the last game. This is one loss here. It's about how you recover at this point. How do you respond next week? And what you got to do is respond and go out there and beat the Buccaneers. You cannot go and think, hey, we could lose another game back to back, we'll be fine. Well, now you kind of put yourselves up back against the wall. Now you got to win 2 games at least. You don't want it to come down to the last 2. Say you lose the next 2. You do not want it to be like you have to beat the Patriots, you have to beat the Raiders to get to the playoffs. You want to handle your business right now, control your destiny at this point, win the next 4, which would be absolutely incredible to go to 12 wins for this team in that literal flip of the schedule last season, and to be able to really go in the playoffs with really good momentum. Obviously, if it's 12 wins, based upon my thoughts with the Ravens, they will probably go to 11 wins. If we get 12 wins, we'll get to that 5th seed, and that's the seed you want to be at this point, guys. So big game this weekend for the Chargers. Massive, massive game for the Chargers, I should say. Go out and win this one. Handle your business. Now, moving on. This is going to the Broncos schedule. You go to the Broncos schedule at this point. This game is huge in a lot of ways. Colts, Broncos. Basically, if the Colts go out and beat the Broncos, that pushes the Broncos back 1 game from us. That 7th seed becomes open for not just the Colts and also for the Dolphins, but it really shifts things a lot in what's going on with the wild card situation. It gives the Chargers some gaps. It gives the Raven a little bit of gap between these teams, almost solidifying their playoff position even more if the Chargers go out and win this one this weekend. Big thing, too, is that opens up a little bit of the division, too. If, say, the Colts go out there and beat them, that opens up the division a little bit further for the Colts. And I'll chat about their schedule here shortly. Because now, let's say, I'll talk about the Dolphins and who they're playing, which I chatted already about the Texans. That's going to be big. If they end up beating them, that changes a lot in this whole spectrum of the division at this point. So crazy to see. But that game, Colts-Broncos, is a win-win either which way. Broncos win. That pushes out one of the playoff teams. That gives a gap essentially for the 6th and 7th seed and even to say the 5th seed. And then if Colts win, then it kind of goes backwards too. So either which way, both sides, this game is a win-win for the Chargers. It helps solidify playoff chances. Now, once again, the Chargers have to win games to basically solidify that. So big game this weekend. Great one to keep an eye on. Obviously, next week that I chatted about, Broncos-Chargers Thursday Night Football. Huge game. That's a big, big game for the Broncos in a lot of ways. One, obviously, keep their playoff hopes alive if they lose to the Colts. Obviously, 2, try to tie it up with the Chargers if there's a tiebreaker type situation. It becomes division records at that point. That's a big game all around. It's like the NFL scripted this whole dang season all around. It's crazy, but great December football right now. And Broncos go play the Bengals on the road. That's not an easy game. And then you end the season against the Chiefs, which possibly could just be backups anyways. They do not have a good schedule ahead of them. They have a lot riding on the next 4 weeks for the Broncos. If Broncos basically lose to the Colts, that's where things are going to get really interesting with that 7th seed in a lot of ways, guys. So crazy to see. Now, why does it matter that the Colts win this game this weekend? If they end up winning this one, watch out. They got a great schedule ahead of them. They got the Colts at home versus the Titans. They play the Giants in New York, and then they play the Jaguars at home. 3 very winnable games, guys. That is absolutely ridiculous to see, guys. That is a phenomenal schedule for them. Now, if you look at the Texans ahead of us, being in 2 games ahead of the Colts, the Dolphins are playing the Texans, and I'll actually just pull them up right now. The Dolphins are playing the Texans this weekend. Dolphins are in the running, right? Kind of a long shot, but if they go out there and beat the Texans, that helps their playoff chances. It starts to go up a little bit more. That harms the Texans trying to seal the division, and the Colts end up beating the Broncos, which personally, it could either go which way with us on this. Kind of would be interesting to be able to see the Broncos get knocked out of the playoff running. That would be pretty awesome, actually, too. But basically, that makes that whole division a little bit tougher all around. Now, essentially, the Texans, who have basically the Chiefs after the Dolphins on a Saturday game, and then they play a Christmas game against the Ravens. Essentially, it's a Thursday night game, if you want to say, in the amount of days. So a Saturday and a Wednesday game after next week's game, and then they basically play Texas Titans after that. Tough schedule for the Texans at this point. They do not have an easy game outside of that Titans game at the end. If Dolphins beat the Texans, that is going to be massive for that whole division. It could really find a way for the Colts to even swoop in and make it happen. There's a legitimate chance the Texans could basically lose the next 3 games. That would be insane. But Dolphins, once again, they're playing the Texans. Then they play the Niners, who are in the running. And tonight at Thursday Night Football, that'll tell us kind of where they potentially are going to be at. Niners are getting slightly healthier in some ways. They're getting Greenlaw back, one of their leaders of their defense. They don't have Christian McCaffrey or anything like that at this moment. But, Isaac Guerrero is out there. Hopefully he does great for my fantasy because I'm in the playoffs. I really need some help there. And then they play the Browns on the road and the Jets on the road. 2 cold weather type games to end the season, which is tough for the Dolphins. So I think it's still a very much uphill battle, but the Dolphins could play game wreckers at this point. They could basically spoil some teams' seasons to get in the playoffs or even win divisions. So they got a great situation going on for them right now. So once again, this playoff run is awesome right now, guys. It is phenomenal to watch what December football could bring. And the NFL did a great job of putting together an awesome schedule for late in the season. Now, if it's scripted, they did a phenomenal job on the script. But bottom line, what I'm saying is that there is some big games ahead of us for the Chargers this weekend, and I'm excited about it. This is what it's about. It's great to be able to have great, meaningful December football for once, Chargers. And once again, this offseason was phenomenal. And obviously you got Jim Harbaugh, you got Chef Ortiz out there cooking it up, making things happen. I mean, the future is bright for the Chargers, and it's only going to get better from here. So I'm excited to be able to see meaningful football for the Chargers. Bottom line, go out and get wins. That's simple as that. Get 2 just to get in the playoffs. Get 4, you basically got a great record at 12-5. I would love to see that happen. So once again, guys, want to hear from you. Love to be able to hear your thoughts on what the ending record could be for the Chargers and some of the playoff scenarios below. It's really amazing. There's a lot of great games this weekend that could change up this whole thing about the wild card position. So once again, guys, James from Bolt Bros, let's go.
Hey, what's up? Cameron Dick here watching the Bolt Bros podcast. Let's go.